That's it. I came, I saw it. Okay. I'm gonna try going this way. Come out of here. So this is fun. It's a very. I've had nice little purple orbs saying safety, safety, safety. The devas of creation are saying you're safe, you're safe, you're safe. In the cradle of creation, everyone is safe, you are safe. And yesterday, Qualicum was not. That's done. I've learned some things. I've had some powerful experiences. That town is as colonial as it gets. I would say the town of Qualicum is a colonial town. Very banking system, very colonial. And the energy I got from people, which doesn't have to all be interpreted the worst possible way, but it's like discomfort with, what the average person might perceive that's different than what I would perceive, and then blending those together, you'd be like, okay, well, that sucks. It could be useful if we start to think that our feelings are as important as anyone else's judgment. What do we say when we say people should have manners? We're saying that we want people to really try, even if we can't always succeed, in being fair to how other people feel. Because people feel bad for all kinds of reasons. If I talk to your grandmother in the wrong way, or address her in the wrong way, she could feel bad. You wouldn't like that, right? You don't look to insult people's grandmas or grandpas. Right? So it's about what you say and what you don't say. I like that, people are really careful to be friendly. When someone hurts your feelings, it may not be absolutely wrong, but it might be useful to listen to why they feel hurt. If you're their friend or something, and just go, instead of talking over them like a therapist and saying, well, why do you think you really feel that way? Well, we all feel a certain way. We feel really bad. Yes, it's probably always related to our mommy and daddy, right? But that's not what you should just make everything about, right? You work through different things because the limbs of that fear tell us about the limbs of the world. That's why it's called the limbic system. It has many limbs. The limbs of our emotional body. These are the limbs of the roots of the world. No, I mean, you can't make as many words as there are waves in the ocean. And that ocean is in your brain. It's a force. It's an intelligence. It's good and great, but not in the sense that it has any desire to jeopardize your safety or anyone's. Okay? You are responsible for your feelings. You're responsible for how you express them, all those things. But at its core, there's something to be respectful of and to allow to breathe and to be, and that maybe just to suffer the risk of saying things that other people don't like because you feel it comes from that emotional body on instinct and say, okay, well, I don't know what you think, but the way that Charlie just talked to me, I think is absolutely misogynistic. Okay? And I feel awful about it. And it makes me never want to come back here again, And I'm sick of the Charlies of the world. You know what? I'd prefer if you just fired fucking Charlie and I could come back here and go on with my normal fucking life, right? Right? And that's sexual harassment. I don't care if you call it harassment or assault. Changes your life. You might as well have fucked you up the ass, right? Right? Because, you've now had to become submissive to strong messages and indications that you should consider yourself unsafe behaving in a manner or moving about or going somewhere that you've normally felt safe doing so. It's a form of abuse, discipline, rejection, right? And prosecution, projecting something into you under your skin, and then using that projection or accusation to move you around and control you. Because I don't want you to have a choice in how safe you feel anymore. Right? And someone can do that in front of witnesses in various ways, based on fear and training and all sorts of territorial problems within a group and an enterprise that no one's ever going to fault them for. And you will leave. Make no mistake, the message will get across. Right? You'll find, if you're me, that any store in the world has the prerogative to say, I don't really need your business anymore. I don't really care if you write the worst Twitter review in the world. We hate you. We hate people like you. Don't come back here again. It's like Pretty Woman. I've got money. No, it doesn't matter. I've had that look, that energy, a couple times in my life. I've had it come out into real time a couple times in my life, in public around witnesses, 2 or 3 times. It doesn't feel good. Sometimes multiple times in the same store, and I still keep coming back. Isn't that amazing? First one employee, then another, then another. And everyone in this world is learning to kind of existentially feel good about themselves. And useful, if very emotional. Any primal disruption with a mother will mean that we might feel guilty for no reason. We might feel like we've done something wrong for no reason under any circumstance. Someone can pacify us with the suggestion that we're kind of not okay. If we find ourselves harassed by people we know or people who want to have sex with us or whatever, it's because on some level we think when they tell us something bad, they're right. Because for some reason, even though we're a decent person, about ourselves. And if someone suggests that we should, we respond very quickly and to that because it's for safety reasons, you know? In a sense, we've taken on the guilt of a kind of predator who preyed on us. We've internalized it, but only in the part where that predator guilty we do. Right? When people hurt us, they lower their inhibitions. They feel better about themselves, not worse. But in order to do that, they have to accuse innocent people who are capable of feeling guilty about something they're not even doing. Right? If you wanted to stop things, which is impossible because you become a psycho, to never be feeling guilty when you've done nothing wrong. Or you have to deal with all kinds of primal emotional issues. You should be glad that you can feel that way. It shows you you're capable of healing and teaching the rest of us how to do so. Good day. Well, oh, you got a nice color. So another example of creepy YouTube videos that come from the mass media system. A video about a plane which diverted and crashed in 1977 in Revelstoke in Canada. The girlfriend of a young man worked as someone who was able to learn very quickly of this that wasn't going to be found by anyone else for probably weeks. And she relayed this information covertly to her boyfriend, and I remember him and his associates went to find it and found it stuffed. It had come from Colombia with hundreds of huge bags of primo marijuana, which they excavated, as the video described, sold, and made me out really high, except for the faint residues of gasoline that blew up in their faces now and at no point in this video did they ever talk about the 2 pilots who had died, or finding their bodies, or getting them back to their families, or having any inhibitions indeed about taking and selling property that doesn't belong to you, regardless of what it is. You know, doesn't that just have something bad written all over it? And there's pictures of them sitting, having steaks and buying new cars, and hey, you know, eureka. The girlfriend herself was pretty cunning, or keen to suppose that this plane might have had some very interesting cargo, given its origins. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So there's no mention of the cost of human life, from finding their families again. Nothing, 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 nothing. And in the comments section, nothing, 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 nothing. Comments that are voted up 35,000 votes, but no mention of the people passed away because it wasn't a video about that. Nobody really talked about that. They mentioned it briefly at the beginning, but it was about weed and making money, selling Colombia drug cartels marijuana free of all karmic debt. And because the video didn't make a point of talking about how to be empathetic and concerns that the various agencies might have for finding and returning these bodies to their loved ones, they didn't have to. Hey guys, it's like being in school, like, we don't have to worry about dead people. We've got blow, we've got weed, yeah, everyone. And everyone in class going, yeah. And you're sitting there going, my friends are orangutans with no morals, right? And so your life at that point branches off from theirs, let's say. In any way that your mind can do that, it branches off from most of the human race, probably up to the age of maybe 45 when they start to figure out that, they're having empathy when they're supposed to, when it's demanded by what you're watching, right? And only for certain people, and not for the scapegoat who's the evil guy that you can just, take new advanced military software and stick it up his ass and blow him into 1,000 bits while he's hanging off a cliff, and nobody loves him. Nobody's going to miss him. You're actually doing the world a favor. You should feel good about yourself. And that's exactly how the bulls in Pampelon die. That's how the bulls in Mexico, that's how they die. And they're innocent male cows. Okay, think of that for a moment. And they're treated just like a bad guy in one of your films, like an evil genius. And they're tortured in such a way that whatever they do, and the audience, is interpreted as something that means the cow should die. You're actually just murdering a merciless animal. It's amazing that they believe that every cow they bring out there is a merciless murderer. They just happen to find them. I mean, they must have like an ad out looking for merciless, murderous cows. Job pays really well. Excellent medical benefits. Insurance for your family to enjoy for the next generation of meat trucks, But no one thinks about that. They're controlled. After all, they're mostly Catholic, right? They already have Jesus and Easter and Black Friday, right? It's all so confusing because good and black become intertwined, right? And that's how the Bible language works. Good and black is like white and black. It doesn't matter which, it sucks shit, right? Whether God is the God or devil or Satan, it sucks shit. Why? Their Saul is a bad tax collector, and when in fact a Paul is exactly what tax collectors do, and it's exactly what Saul is doing. Because either way, he's still a tax collector, before and after he sees the light. Because what is good and what is black is the same thing. What is light and what is dark is the same thing. What is male and what is female is the same thing. Right? Right? Mother and the father are one. They are the same thing. Hey, though, we should have a yoga. We are the same thing. Yes, we are the same thing. We are the same thing. I'll be like starting to call you Marcia, even though your name is John. You are the same as Marcia. Therefore, I call you Marcia. And you'll go, the same as Bethany. So I shall call you Bethany. Hey, you're getting it, Marcia. Or is it Tomingulus? I think you're Anusol. Yeah, Anusol. But nobody's called that. But you are Anusol. You're a one cunt-licking motherfucker. You are one with that. We could call anything, anyone, anything you want. Because we're everything. We're anything. We're nothing. It reduces all distinctions to nothing. And then it just gives up your mind. Let someone else make those distinctions, eh? Just do your job. And how often does this happen? Well, every flicker of the TV screen, every little syncopated or subliminal, in every single soundtrack of the world, every single day, to hundreds of millions of people. Scared yet? And yet we live with it every day. It takes a lot to get people down. As I say, most people are always down, I don't know it. Their brain is down for repairs. Whew. I came here with my parents a few times. These are good. But I stand convicted. I've been convicted by people. And what I've noticed in cults, the more you complain and study them and find out, what do they really mean? And what do they really think you mean? Can they ever really hear what you're saying? Have you ever tried to explain to a person or people the logic behind why you feel bad or why something is wrong and how wrong it is? Okay, here's the thing that's wrong. And let me explain it to you really slowly. Ta-da, 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 ta-da. Do you understand? No. Okay. Put another way, this is how all of that makes me feel. When I tell you this is how you're making me feel. And every time I seem to tell anyone this, they make me feel even worse. Why do you think that is? Why is it that people that claim to want to help you the most with whatever you confide to them about your life or any kind of difficulties in your past never really seem to care about it, but always seem to want to start moving you around and telling you how to feel? Because it's a power commensurate with how they've dealt with their problems, or how they think some magical system of professional or spiritual association has dealt with their problems, and compounded by the ability to, say, wear a costume every day and to affect a certain personality to go along with the philosophy. A personality compatible with the philosophy, that's compatible with being happy, making money, and participating in something that ends up letting people getting assaulted and raped, and made to feel shocked enough that they have to change their lives and cut their ties with you. All wrapped in the same person, wrapped into millions of people every day who have to cope. And we basically learned that life is something that we all have to cope with. Since we all have to cope with life, things we don't like, therefore, strangely enough, we make this leap, like there's nothing that people are coping with that they shouldn't have to cope with, and that their coping systems, here, there, and when combined, can be exploited in order to hurt people. Because coping isn't the same as being as strong and as free of the ability to be wrongly manipulated as you might want or think or imagine. You have every right to want to imagine being when you're born, and your parents love you, and the world is a really good place. It's not just childish. It's not just for a child who doesn't know the real world. It could just as well be someone who has far too much of an acquaintance with the real world, and what property ownership and working in various orders and following various cults and magical associations where your membership is in any way induced by dislocations in your primary developmental epics and relationships to mommy and daddy. And you don't have to prove that hasn't happened for me. But at this point, I don't see how you could. If we just take the human race as a whole, given what we know about cult psychology, we know for sure that any corrupting influence in any association, they call it cults, that's about the maximum good and the maximum service to something great like God, and the maximum amount of useful surrogacy in terms of any kind of family difficulties or needs for coping that you might say humans generally have to endure because of sin, evolution, genetics, and various environmental and industrial conditions. Demands of life. Hey man, just man up, and you'll notice that everyone you meet deals with life in some way. Here, this is who I am. This is how I deal with life. 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 It's not necessarily childish to say that dislocations and disruptions and what we no longer seem interested in imagining is the basic standard for not molesting a human mind, irrespective of what we call the real world. Let's say that some parts of the real world could overreach for some people, and it might be good to have a philosophy to pull that back a little bit, because real as it is, just like a narcissistic or abusive relationship, as necessary it is to treat someone this way, this is A, abusive for them, and B, you're never going to get what you want out of them unless you just enjoy abusing someone. In which case, by all means, go ahead. This is what we should be saying when we say people have a voice in their own safety. If you haven't been given this voice in itself and any other kind of voice like that, haven't you sort of been silenced? Haven't your teachers kind of robbed you of something? Hasn't your family been robbed of something? You know, nothing in this world is obliged to respect that voice. It's something we do for ourselves and our own families. The government made a pro-voice campaign, right? For ways that the world, real as it is, overreaches. And you sort of have to have a level of advocacy, verbalism, if you will, a level of hopeful, maybe magical seeming, flexible or a divergent way of risking various things by trying to make sounds that resonate with a part of you that, whether you like it or not, is going to sustain very persuasive effects, enlightening as they are, abusive as they may become, shocking as they may always be, as to how anything that's put a demand on you in your environment feels to the core judgment of your emotional being. So that we can say that if we can see a lot of people who bully other people and say, what if we could take a look at what happened to their emotional mind when they were a child? How many people think that that would be fruitful investigation? How many people think that it wouldn't? People think it'd be a little easier with that investigation if we weren't looking to go and convict people of just being abused children. And then we should all just give up the ghost. The competing theory is that evolution has always been agonizing. The brain is used to going to great lengths. You may find that the brain has gone to great lengths that hurt some people or expose human beings to danger in order to survive all of the demands of being in the womb, coming out of a uterus, breathing, in dealing the slaps and pokes and pulls of their early life. And that's taken care of. Yes, you're going to see evidence of stretching and tearing and maybe personality disorders and things like that, because that's just life. It's like genetic divergence. We need crazy people. We need people to have eccentricities and interesting little compulsions, because we all have to deal with life, It's not perfect. You need to get some butter and walk around and put it between your toes, or have different sexual positions, or watch endless amounts of film or video and just tell people you spent 10,000 hours arcade game or video game, pretending you have a will of your own in an extremely trapped environment with a very narrow range of choices that give you a constant thrill in how you can manipulate this finite amount of possibilities into feeling even more free and powerful and excited, and to give you that, to entrain in you a chemical need profile very well acquainted with the types of systems that are responsible for producing different kinds of endorphins to ameliorate all kinds of pain you've suffered since you were born. And expose you to an architecture that is helping to mold your mind into a certain kind of thinking and perceiving. That will be less interested in learning about things that present a difficulty that would contravene the type of pleasure you're used to getting from playing a video game, and the paces the mind is going through, and the steps it's skipping before it takes out a gun and shoots somebody, and doesn't really think about what they're doing, because it's fun and it's just a video game, right? And it feels good in your brain. I killed 1,000 zombies today. I slammed my friend down to the mat. We killed the Brazilian soccer team. I shot an evil mech out of the sky. Thousands and thousands of hours, millions of hours every day, going into playing games, watching TV, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. There's a new name every year, every 6 months, some new media platform taking shape, rooting in the human mind, rooting in the culture, right? You'll notice that most of what they're watching is video games. It's anime, it's fiction, it's slogans, it's memes. All such stuff that goes nowhere and doesn't really feed the brain. But you can tell it's incredible intelligence to use an incredible intelligence and make it sure that it only with titillation and giving people watching a chemical hit that makes them thinking and that they're connecting to real intelligence that's talking to them in an intelligent way. But boy, those jokes are intelligent. And boy, all the references to sex by that really cute guy or girl and all that kind of subtle homosexuality all really makes everything tick inside your brain. Right? We love it, we love it, we love it. It's giving you everything you need. It's like mother's milk. Right? And the analysis is reverential. I love this about him. I love this. I love this. And you don't even know what you're talking about. It's based on a level of skill that were you fully versed in the kind of skill these people have and why, it would shock you that these people are hypnotizing you. This is the chemical and psychological and religious level of controlling you that's advanced since the so-called Middle Ages. This is religion times a million. It's giving you a religion every nanosecond. You're hooked in its plasma field. You're living among the stars on the Starship Enterprise that's run by a captain who is the bank, who doesn't need money because it is money, going where only no man can go. Because you're nobody when you're on a Starship Enterprise. You're nobody. You're living in a totally fictitious world, outer space. They're renting space in your mind for free and then charging you for it. That's what astronomy is. The ass tour of money. The sun torture for money. Astronomy. That's what I think. And, I scare myself with very strong, crazy opinions, but I just follow things where they go. I followed language. Started looking into the meaning of language, and it's there. If you start looking for it, you find it everywhere, what words really mean, or connotations that they have. That if you can find it in your own language, like, they're telling you it carries that, and the way you use it, you don't realize the connotations that it has. For instance, I can't tell you why exactly. I can't convince you with a resounding argument, but I don't like, I'm going to just get another drink out of here. I don't like the word male and female. I just don't like them. If I like the idea of my father being a Mao, or like the male, M-I-L, because whenever you have two words that sound the same, you kind of wonder. Male is someone's property. It's just property being transferred between one person and another. Is that the word male has the word ill in it. And Mao. Right? And then you get Mao, female. And then you get May ill, like the sons of May. To be ill in the sense of May is to be ill in your sex and your gender. What is male is what is ill in male. What is female is what is ill in female. And together they gather fees, taxes. That culture is entirely rigged to tax us. That Paul, or Saul, the tax collector in the New Testament, is what the police are. The police are tax collectors. They're tax collectors. Let's go. There's only so much time you can spend standing in here. But they're tax collectors. Right? Eat, curse, use magic words. Don't be the one that they need to curse. But they're tax collectors. If you look at regressive taxation, that's what the police are putting in. And what's more, this is not about hitting on the police. It's just what they're doing it for is the world religion. It's the same way it's by taxing people to make sure they obey the most powerful religion. The most powerful religion is always gathering the most fees. Right? And it reaches out its limbs through the limbs of words, language, culture, science, training, timing, memories, media, messages every day. It tries to replace the tree of life. And the full, you say, aspiration, or the breathing of the limbs of our fully emotional mind by birth. What seems right and free to our own brains by birth. What seems right about having a mommy in a way that you never lose your mommy, and having a daddy in a way that you never need to lose your daddy. And that we live in a world where you can do things that make your mommy and daddy safer. You can do things that make them safer. So neither of them die from each other. You know? Because sometimes people do that. And it's a crazy thought. Right? But what I've noticed and suspected over the years is that, like in my building, for instance, women always outlive men. And until very recently, my mom would, to put a sense, my mom would go through emotional tears related to alcohol for months and years at a time, and return to things with such malice as made me sick and sent me to hospital. Okay, this was a big deal. I'm still getting used to it not happening. I'm still kind of resonating in my own emotional body. On top of shocks outside the home. So trying to correlate maternal and emotional issues with how I feel treated by other people, how I come to be treated by other people, and what happens when I start to draw stronger boundaries about what I don't accept, what I don't want to be treated like. You ever just felt like, I don't want to be treated that way? I don't want to be treated that way. You know? That is not right. Nobody should be treated that way. And so this energy of, this is what I demand, and if you're not going to give it, that's not. But I think there's something wrong here. I know there is. Maybe you'd say I became someone who carried a chip on their shoulder, but I don't think so. Like, I've taken a long time, many years, to